Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and today's guest, this is a little bit of a surprise, because usually I know the person that I'm interviewing, and today TJ and I never met before today, so I'm going to let him introduce himself, but I'm really excited because who knows how this is going to unfold. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce TJ Walker. Hey there.
It's great to be here with you. Thanks so much for making time for me and to share a little time with your audience. I'm looking forward to it. I love to talk. So that's what I do for a living. That's what I teach other people how to do, is how to speak to live audiences, how to speak to the media. And I built a whole business around it. And I didn't start out this way. I was the quietest kid in elementary school. I never said anything in class. And my whole speaking career began in sixth grade when my teacher pulled me aside and said, hey, buddy, you're going to get good grades, but I'm giving you a C in handwriting. But if you give the welcoming speech for the graduation ceremony, I'll give you an A in handwriting. So she essentially bribed me.
There's a barter system.
I didn't like to speak. I didn't feel great about it, but I liked getting A's. I said, well, okay, how bad could it be? So I wrote my little speech, stood up. Welcome, parents, teachers, students to the Bruns Avenue Elementary School graduate. I got through the speech. I got the A, and I learned at an early age, if you just stand up and speak, good things happen to you. People give you good things. And the very next year, I won a Fonzie lookalike contest in junior high school. This was 50 years ago, and my reward was doing the junior high school newscast on closed circuit TV. And believe it or not, ever since then, everything I've done is related to either public speaking or speaking to the media. And it's taken me to nearly 50 countries around the world, or I've trained presidents of countries, prime ministers, Nobel Peace Prize winners, Miss Universes, and professional athletes.
That's fantastic. So when you, I remember because we're probably close in age, I remember the closed circuit TV stations and I remember the studio in our high school. So that's kind of neat. So did you work for any corporations, or did you just start doing your own thing right away?
I've worked for federal government. I've worked for members of Congress. I've bounced around in a lot of different jobs, frankly, had internet startups. But pretty early in my career, I worked in state government as a communications official and as an aide to members of Congress. Worked in political campaigns for many years as a media consultant, producing TV commercials and coaching candidates as well. And hung out my own shingle about 25 years ago as a full-time media trainer and presentation skills coach. And it was rough. The first year, I started it in a recession in 2001 and made $10,000 the entire year. And that was working about 18 hours a day. So it was a tough start.
Wow. And so clearly that wasn't the case the year after. So how did you bounce back from that year?
Well, here's what I did. I made a classic mistake. You as a marketing expert know this. I tried to be all things to all people. So I had shut down an internet startup, and I had hosted TV and radio shows before, but I wasn't making a living doing those things. So I hung out my shingle. I started a web page, and it said, I can do public speaking training. I can do media training. I can do audio press releases. This was before a podcast. I said, I can interview you on video and do a video press release. This was before YouTube. I can help you pitch money for your startup. So I had this list of a dozen different services that I could do. And what I found is I just confused the marketplace. Nobody really knew where to put me. I started something called the PR Radio TV Network, where I interviewed public relations officials and heads of PR firms. And the problem was, I thought they would hire me for media training. They put me in the category of, oh, you're a reporter, different category. So
Sure.
I confused the marketplace, and I just wasn't making any money. And about once a month, I took one thing off of my resume, one thing off of my services. I did that for the whole year. By the end of the year, I got down to one thing. I help people communicate more effectively. I got rid of all the other stuff, not because I couldn't do them, but
Right.
because I couldn't get the marketplace to understand that I could do it.
It
So
was muddying the
when I
waters.
narrowed it down to just one thing,
Yep.
that's when it took. The other thing I did in retrospect that helped me out a lot is I looked at all the other media training firms, all their websites, and they all said the same thing. They all said, we work with everyone. We work with CEOs and professional athletes and politicians. And I thought, how do I really differentiate myself? Because I had done it on the side for many years, but just as a freelance side type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked myself, of all the clients I work with, who in general are the best ones that are the easiest to deal with and that can pay the most, and if I targeted my energies, would be more profitable? Because like a lot of people, I'd worked with politicians, which are very difficult to work with, and entrepreneurs and small business people, all wonderful. But I found that when I worked with top executives at publicly traded corporations, C-level executives at publicly traded corporations, they tended to have the most money. So in the beginning of my second year, I branded myself as the leading media training firm in the world, specializing in training C-level executives at publicly traded corporations. Now, there should have been an asterisk there saying I'm the only one that specializes in that. But that helped me take off, because if you were in charge of corporate communications or PR for a publicly traded company and you saw that, you know, well, this person must be legitimate. He's not going to waste our time. So they felt comfortable with me. And I still got businesses from other industries, because if you were an entrepreneur, you thought, well, he's already working with public CEOs. I want to be that one day. Let's hire him too.
Sure.
So the business went from $10,000 year one to a couple $100,000 year two, and it just took off ever since.
Nice. Very cool. So this is so funny because, like I said, usually I know the person beforehand and I know what I'm going to ask. So after you took off, so in that first year, once you niched yourself, right, you narrowed everything down. It was mainly C-suite people, C-level.
A lot of them, yes,
clients?
a lot of them. Mm-hmm.
How did you branch off again to others?
Just, websites change over time, doors open, new marketing ventures. I did things like I did publicly marketed workshops for the Public Relations Society of America. That would bring in people from everywhere. And through networking,
Sure.
SEO. Here's the other thing I think you as a marketing professional would appreciate in a lot of your audience. So when I first started off, I wanted to be really aggressive, and I tried everything. I advertised in PR Week magazine and Public Relations magazine and various trade publications. Absolutely nothing worked. I would give away free videos. Again, this was before YouTube. I would have to mail a VHS tape to people.
Wow.
And I would advertise in all these places, giving away free media training videos. Nothing worked except for SEO. So I went to my marketing company and I said, hey, I'm going to stop advertising on all these other trade publications because it's generating literally zero. You're giving me good prospects. I want to do more. What should I do? They said, and this was, SEO changes constantly, as you know. This was in a time when if your keywords were in your title, it helped.
Right.
They said, okay, look at your keywords and of people who find you and call you. And then of those, which ones actually put money in your pocket? So I had keywords like crisis communications. The problem was that would generate calls from schools saying, we need a plan for alerting parents for when there's a lockdown.
Sure.
Something I knew nothing about and had zero skills and interest in.
Yeah.
Public speaking would generate calls, but that would generate calls from high school kids and college kids, nice people. They couldn't afford to pay me more than $5. So I looked at the term media training. That's what, when someone called me looking for media training, they often were ready to hire me and they had a budget. So at that point, I changed the name of my company from TJ Walker Communications or whatever it was to mediatrainingworldwide.com. And the reason for that, it's not a good SEO name because as far as being long, but my SEO company said, whatever your keyword is that generates money for you in traffic, that needs to be the name of your company, the name of your URL. Well,
Sure.
mediatraining.com was already taken. So we decided at that point, the name of your company is going to be mediatraining plus one more word.com. And that's how I became Media Training Worldwide.
Interesting. And, you talk about SEO, and I just had a call earlier this morning with a new client and about SEO changing. Back then, SEO was, I think the algorithm might have changed maybe every 6 months. So whatever you had worked for 6 months, and then they changed it. And, having what you do in the, in your name is almost back now. But back then, SEO was literally, doing whatever your Google business profile was, changing a couple of keywords on your website that were going to, talk to whatever audience it was. Because when you were talking about, crisis control and, public speaking, right away, I was like, oh, but they weren't targeted. They were just very vague, right? So, you have to get targeted. So I'm glad that you were able to, to target that, because a lot of people don't get that. And the fact that you got that back then is, I'm actually pretty impressed.
Well, it was by necessity, because at the time I started my business, I'd had a .com. I was going to be a .com billionaire. I had something like the Huffington Post, went bust. I had maybe $400 to my name. So wow. I had a lot of time on my hands because I was single back then. I didn't have any money to go out on dates or anything. Right. So I was just marketing all day long, sending out cold emails, experimenting. It's also when I started a newsletter. And I would say those two things, getting the SEO right and consistently putting out a newsletter every week for more than 25 years, those two things really helped me the most. Because most people, as you know, start a newsletter and after the third edition, never do it again. Yeah. Or they start and stop. And it's that consistency. And I would say the one consistent thing in my career is I'm willing to experiment, try, and fail a lot, because occasionally it only takes one thing working and it brings up everything else. All my marketing efforts fail except for the SEO and hiring a search engine company. That really made my business because it brought in calls from all over the world. And, fast forward, actually, it was before that. I started doing, again, on the side when I was doing other things, I started my first online media training course, public speaking course. 1998, failed miserably, couldn't give it away. Every so often, I would spend some money, hire developers. This is before there were these major marketplace and platforms. I would hire developers, spend a bunch of money, get some publicity, launch it, crickets. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars for 15 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
When it took off, wow, did it really take off?
Yeah.
And so I wish I'd had perfect timing and just waited till that moment of, 2017 or so. But then sometimes you wait too long and you can't catch up. When the marketplace was there, I was ready for it. In 1998, not enough people had high-speed broadband internet. None of
No.
people were used to looking at video.
I built my first computer in 1997. I remember I was working for a company called RFS, and the IT guy used to buy computer components from this. It wasn't called UBID. It was like U something. And he said, you should build your own computer. And I was like, because I'm very mechanically inclined and I'm very interested in all of that, right? So I said, well, what the hell? But I didn't have internet. But I said, all right, and I was actually in school for network engineering for oh gosh, what was it called? It was not Microsoft, Novell.
Uh-huh.
So I was going to school for it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to build my own computer, and I built my computer, and then I got internet, and I had this disc from AOL. I will never forget it. I remember the sound. It was like wherever the sound was, and you waited, and then it would be like, you will be connected in 3 minutes, and you were like, yes, that's amazing. And now if we're not connected in like 2 seconds, it's like completely insane. But back then it was such a for you to even be doing internet advertising was way ahead of your time, because it was just not. A lot of people didn't
Did you
have
say
it.
you worked with RFS? Was that radio frequency, the chip that goes into phones?
So no, not the phones. So it was called, and I've never said this on air before, radio frequency systems. They built all of the cell towers, and it's not the cell towers. They built all of the antennas and connectors and all of that for the cell towers for, like all the cell companies. So back then it was like Cellular One and Verizon and all of that. But it was really interesting because, like building these things, the computer itself, and knowing all of the ins and outs of, okay, how the connectivity works, and then how, all of the other stuff works, led me to, how do you get online? And then how do all of these things, show up? So the SEO piece back in 97 was insane. There was, I'm not going to say non-existent, but it wasn't as prevalent. You're saying 2017.
In 97, people were paying to be in the garden part of AOL. And actually, some were getting paid by AOL to be in a particular niche. Yeah. So a very, very different world. But the thing that's the same is there's always a whole bunch of new things. And if you just say, I'm going to wait till everyone else is doing it, you can do that in a lot of cases, but then it's too late. And sometimes you get lucky and it takes off and you do really well. Sometimes you try a whole bunch of things and 9 out of 10 fail, but that one where you placed a bet is ready to take off. And that's what I've tried to do. I certainly have had no great genius at picking winners in advance. And I've been too soon on some, too late in others. But certainly going early on SEO helped me a lot. Going early in online training helped me because it really did take off around 2018. And then when the pandemic hit, boom, it was 8 years of growth in about 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Which Amazon experienced, anyone in the online space experienced that. The bad news was it decimated my in-person training business. The good news is it didn't matter because the revenues were
everything went up with
up 10 times from all the online students. Yeah. And now I have 12 million student enrollments from around the world.
That's incredible. That's just, talk about a success story. Wow. And it's so, not funny, but when COVID hit, for me, it was because I, built my business locally for the most part, and it stopped. Like I couldn't go anywhere. So I had to go on LinkedIn, and I would be on LinkedIn, and it was like like people now laugh. They're like, you were shy. Like behind my computer, I was shy to go into these marketing groups. And right before the pandemic hit, Kofi told me, he said, you need to be doing video. And I was like, I never need to be doing video because I thought, video was for, I don't know, movie stars or whatever. Like you had to look a certain way, right? So I didn't think that it was me. And then the pandemic hit and I started inserting myself into these like marketing groups on LinkedIn, and found that, hey, I had something that they wanted to hear. So that opened up my world, like unbelievably. And I joined this marketing group where I met this woman, Nina Fareep, who owns Clockwise Production. She does video. And we had a video challenge, video challenge for, it was like 3 or 4 months where you had to do a video every day, every work day of the week. So you had to get comfortable with video. And by the time, June hit, it didn't matter how you looked because, I had my Bonnie Raitt gray streak, like everybody looked like crap, right? It was like, it didn't matter. What mattered was the message and how you delivered it. And it was such a revelation for me. It was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. So, things started blowing up, right? It just started getting, national because now you're not just in, Lafayette, Indiana. Now you're like all over the place because the internet that's the only place that I could be. So it was just incredible how big the world got.
That's great. You got over that hump of feeling uncomfortable on video. Everybody's uncomfortable on video.
Sure.
So much of what I do when I'm training people for media training and public speaking training is getting them comfortable speaking in front of a camera, comfortable knowing they look and sound their best. And everybody feels like their voice is uniquely awful. There's something about them that doesn't look good. I've had clients start crying when they see themselves on video for the first time. Really? And I usually say the same thing. I usually say, look, relax. Nobody here's 21 and, my hair's gray and falling out and I got wrinkles. You're fine. I had a client once, recorded presenting, doing an interview. We watched it. She started crying. I'm like, well, what's wrong? Like, TJ, I hate the way I look, hate the way I sound. And I was about to say what I normally do. Hey, relax. No one's 21. But I realized I couldn't do that because she was 21. She was actually Miss Universe and hated the way she looked and hated the way she sounded. And she looked fantastic.
Wow.
Everybody dislikes something about how they look and sound. And what I point out is, think of the top 3 highest paid people in Hollywood for the last decade. It's Judge Judy, it's Dr. Phil, Oprah, people who by traditional metrics of beauty and good looks in America do not fit the bill. Judge Judy's not the young starlet, okay?
No. Oprah doesn't look too bad, though.
People don't care if you have something interesting and useful to them. Where looks matter is, yes, if you're trying to be a movie star for Friday night for the Cineplex to appeal to teenagers, being conventionally really good looking doesn't hurt. Right. But for everybody else, nobody cares what you look like if you're giving something valuable to them.
Yep.
And everybody has some level of vanity. So what I do in my own practice is let people know how you can look your best. Everyone wants to look confident. I can't all of a sudden look like I have a perfect head of hair in front of you right now. But I can do things to make myself look more confident. Part of what it is I'm leaning forward right now. I could lean back like this, and you'd see about 3 chins. This is a mistake a lot of people make.
Right.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with 3 chins. I just don't want to appear that way. By sitting back, you see my stomach is closer to the camera. It makes me look heavier. It makes me look like I have a little pinhead. If I sit up perfectly straight, hi, my name is TJ Walker. I help people look relaxed and comfortable. I look stiff. So
Very
this is a
stiff, yeah.
horrible way to sit. So the worst way is sitting back relaxed. Second worst is perfectly straight.
Like
The
this.
best way is leaning forward about 15 degrees into the camera. Other things that really mess people up is, like, I want to be looking at you right now. The problem is, if I look at you down here, now it looks like I'm ignoring you and I'm checking my email. So I look really rude right now, even though now I can see your nice smile. And that's a big problem people have when they're on Zoom or StreamYard, is they're doing this or they're doing this. They're looking at their notes. Well, as you can see here, I look really relaxed and comfortable. I'm not shifty-eyed and untrustworthy, and they're literally shifty-eyed. So there are a lot of little tricks like this that are very easy to master to help anyone, not necessarily look like movie stars, but to look confident, to look their
now
best.
I feel like
Part
I
of
need to
it
be looking
is
at my dot all the time when I'm talking to you, which makes me sad because I want to look at you. Because I do it all the time.
And part of it is just having a little bit of a smile on your face. I don't mean a big phony fake TV evangelist smile. I mean just a little bit of a smile, because most of us, when we're listening to someone, our face goes blank. But on a video camera, if your face goes blank, it's like this.
Wow.
It's like a mugshot. So when I'm talking to you, I'm intentionally smiling just a little. It will make anyone look more relaxed, more comfortable, and more confident. And then the final thing is, you need to move. People think, oh, I'm going to be professional. I know I'm not supposed to move my hands. Wrong. I have students in every country in the world except North Korea. I've been to 50 countries training. In every culture in the world, when people are speaking and they're comfortable and confident, their hands move. So the second you immobilize your hands, you freeze your hands, you freeze your arms, you freeze your neck, you freeze your voice. Hi, I'd like to tell you how to come across comfortable and relaxed and confident on TV today. It's not very believable, is it? You want movement. Now, is it possible to overdo it? Yes, I've seen Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights. I don't know what to do with my hands here. It's possible to be distracting. I've never actually seen anyone do it in real life unless they're a professional comedian. So a lot of what I train people to do is to bring back their movement in their hands, their body. Now, you don't want to be swiveling in a chair. And for a lot of my guests, I recommend don't even have a chair if you're doing anything on video that swivels.
Right.
Better to have it so that it doesn't. But if you can just lean from the waist forward and move in occasionally, you look much more comfortable, confident, and relaxed.
That is so interesting, because for me personally, I'm super comfortable I've been doing it like forever, and I'm a New Yorker, so I talk with my hands anyway. But, I find that, I guess I never really thought of any of those things. I think when I'm speaking, I lean in. There are definitely some times when I'm listening, I'll lean back, but my camera's not high enough for anybody to see my belly. So and that's by design, but, everything that you're saying is so, it's making me think now. I want to go back and look at a few of my podcasts and be like, okay, how is my body language? How am I, am I leaning in?
I mean, the other big thing that gets people in trouble is they think, oh, Zoom always looks bad. Zoom has nothing to do with Zoom. You can have a $200,000 camera. If it's 18 inches below your nose and looking up your nose, it's going to be unflattering. So that's the problem so many people have, is they're talking to their laptop. Their laptop is on a table. It's aimed upwards. I mean, you never go to a wedding and see the wedding photographer, hey, let me get on the ground and shoot up your noses. No, the wedding photographer's up on the ladder.
They shoot down, right,
looking
100%.
down, because it's a more flattering angle, makes the jawline stronger. So I have a very sophisticated technological fix for people. It's very expensive, but I know all of your viewers are successful and have plenty of money. It's called Get a Stack of Books. Just get a stack of books and put your laptop on top of it. You want the camera, your webcam, to be an inch or two above your eyes. And that creates a much more flattering look. Plus, Notice how you're not staring at the lights on my ceiling now. It's because the camera is not pointed at the ceiling. So anytime you can see the ceiling, it means your camera angle is all off. It's much more flattering to be an inch or two above. I also recommend, now I'm a little too high. I also recommend that the top of your head be almost touching the top of the screen. This way you can see your hands, your body, your torso. This is how professional news anchors are typically framed.
See, that's kind of hard.
It's
now
just
if I move it down, my camera is there. And then you can see all this crap. But if I move it up, where'd I go? Yeah, so if I move it up, I kind of like shrink, right? Like
yes, because what most people do is their head is in the middle because they think, oh, I want it centered. And this is kind of like, hi, I'm little TJ, and I'm a little boy here. You'll never see a professional TV news program where the head is framed literally in the center. It's very much framed in the very top where your
Kofi, are you taking notes on this in the back? I'm like hoping Kofi's taking notes back here because the way that I have my laptop on my desk, and it's on a stand, right? So the stand is, and I can move it.
So if you put it on more of a stack of books and then just had if the laptop is like this, you would just bend it back. But you want the lens either right at your eye level, or you want it an inch or two above your eye level. That's what's going to be most flattering for most people.
Interesting.
And you can do it either by bringing up your chair, bringing up the laptop, but
even changing like the camera.
But it's still shooting upwards. I can tell right now your camera is lower than your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So little things like that can make a difference. Because now you don't see all my chin and jaw all jiggly looking up. It's a more flattering look.
Okay. So yeah, because when I move it up now, just to show you, I disappear. So
but you can bend the camera back. If you're using a laptop, you can then bend it forward.
Bend it. Wait a second.
Bend it forward.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well,
so again, you want your head,
right? Is like
that's too much. Yeah, there we go. Well, now if you're leaning back. Yeah.
No, I'm actually leaning. Okay, so let me raise this.
There.
Now I have to mess with this. I'm going to raise this and then move this here. But I'm leaning. I'm like right here right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit close, but it still looks better to me.
I wonder if this needs to be like, do I need to be back?
Or push the laptop a little further away.
Push it further away.
So here's the big lesson for all of your.
But my hands, you still can't see my.
No, I can see them. And so the big lesson for your audience, though, is experiment. Don't just do it because it's the easiest way for you. I see people constantly doing a podcast or an interview, and there's a window behind them. I get it. If you're working from a home office or regular office, you want sunshine. That's better for your mental health. But it looks horrible on camera because the sunlight is so much brighter than other light. And then it makes you all dark and shadowy. So you want light in front of you. If you have a window, and I do have a window open, but it's on the side. It's not behind me. I have small little accent lights behind me so as not to distract. And that's the problem with overhead lights is they cast unflattering shadows. So again, I have a very sophisticated high-tech solution for all of your viewers. Very expensive, but I know they're all successful. Get a lamp somewhere in your house, take the lampshade off and put it on the other side of the camera. Now you've got light more or less at your face.
I feel like this.
And you can buy a ring light for $15 these days. But what you don't want are the overhead lights. They are unflattering to everyone. You want lights at your eye level, and you don't want light behind you because that
so light eye level.
It doesn't have to be right at eye level. Mine are a little higher, but you don't want them just overhead. If I had my overhead lights on, you wouldn't see my eyes. You'd see nothing but shadows. But I've turned off my overhead lights. I only have a couple of lights in front of me.
Interesting. Okay.
So what you really want when you're doing a video interview, whether it's live on CNN or CNBC or you're on Iris's podcast, is you want to be confident you look your best. You don't want to be in the middle of an interview thinking, oh God, why did I wear this old rag? Or where am I supposed to look? And did I put enough makeup on? You don't want to be thinking about those things. You want to know, I'm coming across exactly the way I want to come across. I'm coming across my best.
Interesting. And this is my 110th episode. Never even thought of any of those things ever.
Well, you learned naturally by doing it. And Mr. Beast learned naturally. If you look at his first 5 years, he was like, hi, my name is... I mean, he was sounded as weak and childlike like any other 12-year-old. He grew into it by doing it hundreds of times.
Right.
Most people do it once and say, oh my gosh, I'm awful. I'm not an on-camera person, and they give up. Or they do 3 or maybe 5 episodes. They're not instantly inundated with clients and money. They give up. They say, oh, that doesn't work. You got over the hump, to your credit. What I do is I help people learn in a day what might take them 2 years if they're just doing it through trial and error. You could learn how to write through trial and error, but most people prefer to go to first grade and there's a teacher saying, hey, little Timmy, you got to start a sentence with a capital letter. You need to end a sentence with a period. It's faster learning with a coach. So when I do work with people, I typically get them on camera not 1 or 2 or 3 times in a day, if it's a one-on-one training. They get on camera a dozen times in a day. So, when I tell people, at the end of the day, if you're saying, wow, TJ, this is the greatest day ever. You're the greatest trainer. I learned so much. You told me so many fascinating things. That's what they tell me. Then we know the day was a complete 100% waste of time and money. What really has to happen is at the end of the day, they're pointing to the screen saying, wow, TJ, if I can be half as good as she is or half as good as he is, I'm going to be the star of my industry. And they're pointing to a video of themselves. Wow. That's when you know a real breakthrough took place. So that's what I do. That's what any really good media trainer or presentation skills coach will do, is they create a new role model for you. And it can't be me. It can't be Oprah. It has to be you. You have to become your own role model. Because what I have found with pretty much any of my clients is I always take them out to dinner the night before. And whether they want a glass of wine or a beer or whatever makes them comfortable, and you're talking for a while and you get them talking about themselves, everybody's a good communicator and animated, interesting, and energetic when they are comfortable talking about something they care about. Right. So people come to me as a media trainer or presentation skills coach thinking I'm going to teach them how to act for the camera or act for the crowd. And the reality is I do the opposite. I teach people to stop acting. Right. The problem most people have is they start acting once the red light goes on or once the camera's on, and they start acting scared. And when you're scared, all of a sudden you become more monotone, your speed becomes more consistent, your tone becomes more consistent, you don't move and you're awful and boring. So much of what I do is...
And you're curled in. And when you're curled in like that, you're tight and you're, yeah. I had somebody on, I actually didn't air the episode. It was the only episode that I didn't air out of all of them. Actually, there were 2 that I didn't air. One I didn't air because it was a salesperson and he sold the entire time. And it's like, that's not what this was about. And I was trying to tamp him in and it didn't work. But, the other person was just so stiff and distracted. Like I'm talking and they're like on their phone and then they're sitting like this. And then when it came time to talk and, pardon my French, I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna curse, but
Yeah.
it was just
By
like,
the way, let's use this as a learning moment because I try to always do this. My recommendation when you're doing an interview, literally power down, not vibrate. If it vibrates, you're going to look, it's human nature. Literally power it down. You're the only person I want to talk to right now. And you're the only person I'm going to talk to.
right. It's so, yeah. But like I said, so those were the only two that I didn't air. And
I'm sure
for me,
you've interviewed people before where they were really great at the cocktail party or over a dinner, and then you had them and it was like, wow, they were A+ before, and the interview was a B+. They're tightening up. They're nervous. They're scared. They're thinking about, oh, what am I going to say? And they're tightening up. So again, what I do is I get people back to their natural mode. So one of the secrets I do in almost every training is I'll have someone stand up beginning of the day, and I'll ask them, I have a bright light, and I have a mic in their face. I'll ask them a question, who they are, what they do. Another one sitting down where I'm the Mike Wallace tough interviewer type. And then I'll drop the microphone off, turn the light off, pull the plug out of the connecting TV, unbutton my jacket, and I'll say, so how'd that feel? They think they're not being recorded. And typically they go from like this to, oh, TJ, that wasn't any good. I didn't like that at all. And I was they become incredibly animated and interesting. So then we go back and watch the first part of the video. I ask them to tell me what they like, don't like. And typically they'll say, well, I just seem a little stiff and uncomfortable, not great, a little flat. And I'll say, maybe. Hey, how would you like to see somebody a lot better than you? How would you like to see someone who could be a role model for you? Someone in your space, but frankly, more interesting, more compelling, more dynamic. They say, sure, I'd like to see that. They think I'm going to show them a clip from some movie star, some politician. Well, I just go to the part of the video where they didn't realize they were being recorded.
And they were relaxed.
And I'll critique it as if it were a completely different person. I'll say, hey, look how this person is leaning forward. Their hands are going up. Look how this person's eyes are getting bigger. Listen to how they sped up their voice and then slowed down. Listen to how they punctuated this word with more volume and then softened it. They're laughing at this point, but they realize it's a very eye-opening moment for them because they realize I'm not there to teach them some whole new skill set. They already have the skills. They just have to use what they're doing when they're normally in a comfortable situation and do it when they're in a slightly uncomfortable situation. But it's the same thing they do all day long. So it's not a hard skill like learning how to be a concert pianist or learning how to dunk a basketball. Those are really hard skills. All I'm getting people to do is to do what they already do in other parts of their life when circumstances just seem a little different.
Yeah. And what I find, so I sing professionally, right? So I'm used to stage. I'm used to, excuse me, all of it. And I remember when it came time to video, I was like, no, not going to do it.
Seems different.
It's like totally different. And it's like if I'm in the studio recording, right? It's the same thing. I'll tighten up a little because I know it's just like me and the mic and even though they can correct it if I make a mistake, I made a mistake. But when it comes to this now, for me, and I think because of Zoom during the pandemic, right? It just became very comfortable. And this was just the way that you communicated. This was it. And so whether it was doing a video for me or, talking on a Zoom call, that's pretty much what happened. And we were recording. This was like so funny. This was like earlier this year. And actually, it's not true. I think every quarter when I do my content videos, I will have a list of what I'm going to talk about. So this I can do and it's not a problem. But when it comes to like actually doing like a video, we laugh. Like we actually there was one day that I just wasn't feeling it. And I tried doing these videos and I was like, it's not happening today. And then we did it the following week and it gelled. But, there's also times, I guess, that when people are doing video for themselves and it's, I don't know, like, you have a list or whatever. Sometimes you forget, right? It's like that. There's like this stressor there. And like I said, I've done 100 and however many episodes. I don't even know how many Zoom calls. Like I probably should have taken stock out in Zoom. I don't know why I didn't. But the point is that when you're doing that and it's conversational like this, it's really, really easy. But if I'm doing like a content video, it'll be like 10 takes sometimes to get one, video. So I find that difference really interesting.
If you don't mind, let me probe that a little because sure. I do find a lot of people share your sentiment. And unfortunately, most of them then use that as an excuse to not make an online course or not make a marketing video for their website because people at some level, subconscious or other, feel like it has to be perfect. Now, I know this firsthand in the online training space because I've had people tell me they spent 7 months making an online course. I'm like, really? What's the topic? Oh, how to enhance your productivity. Like, it took you 7 months to be productive.
Sorry.
And it's because they've internalized this idea that there can't be a single or I can't pause and think for a second. And I always ask them, think of the best professor you ever had in college or your favorite teacher in high school. Were they your favorite because they never paused for a second or they never said, Oh, no. I love their stories and their passion. Well, guess what? If that's what you loved about your favorite teachers, just let that come out in your online videos. Now, I'm not saying I have a monopoly of expertise on this, but my biggest secret to success in the online space for online training is sheer volume. I've got dozens and dozens of internationally best-selling courses, which sounds impressive until you realize I have 300 courses, which means I have about 250 poorly performing courses. But it doesn't matter because I have so many. How am I able to make so many courses? Is because 98% of the time, every video I do in one take. And I don't script it. I focus on one idea that will be helpful to someone, and I talk like I'm talking to a real human being. And then I hit stop. And for the first 10 years, I didn't even do any editing. It was start. I had a remote control in my hand, starting the recording. I hit stop. That was it. Literally zero editing. I now have a team that does a little bit of editing and a little B-roll, but some of my most successful courses that have made, netted or gross 7 figures and netted high 6 figures, literally zero editing, all done in one take. And people say, I could never do that. I'm like, really? So you've never had a prospect come in and you just had a good conversation with them and you sold them? Guess what? Everything out of your mouth was in one take. If you can do it with one human being, you can do it with a camera. Also, there's nothing wrong with glancing at notes occasionally. I wrote down here, Iris, I want to make sure I didn't forget your name. There's nothing wrong with glancing at notes from time to time. Again, think of your favorite professor in college or high school. Were they great because they never glanced down at an outline from time to time? That's not what made them great.
No.
They probably did. It's not that they memorized every lecture, but it didn't bother you that they looked at notes occasionally. don't be afraid to do that. Look, you've got a system that works for you, and you're putting out video content on a weekly basis. That's great. So I don't mean to sound like I'm chiding you on your technique,
no,
but for
no,
your
not at
viewers,
all. It's, hearing you talk about the thing. So you'll appreciate this. So I was doing a welcome video, an onboarding video, right? I wanted it to be personal because for me, my clients aren't transactional. It's not like a numbers game for me. I want to know the person that I'm helping and help them grow their business. So, so for me, it's personal. So I wanted them to feel, like part of the family. So I said, I want to do this welcome video. So I did this welcome video, and it was like, hey, you're here. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the family. And I said, like 1,000 times. I don't even know how many times I said, and I was like, well, shit, I can't put this out, now. So then, they were like, well, do another one because we can't edit all of the ums out. So I said, okay. So then I did another one, but it wasn't as natural because I was so focused on, okay, now I have to do this again. And I don't have to, I can't say, And then we decided, you know what? We're putting the first one out that had all the ums in it because it was the most natural. And people know me. And, when I talk, I say, and, I'm going to start to be doing, more public speaking. And so I will be more cognizant of it and, make the pauses and not say 5,000 times, but I'm not going to not say because I know that it's part of it. It's, it's there. But it was so funny when we were, going to put that video out, and I just looked at it like so many times, and I was like, I can't go better than, I can't make it better than that because it was like you said, that first take, it wasn't gonna get better. And the more that I would try to do it, the more phony it was going to look, and I wanted it to be very real.
Verbal tics, the uhs and the ums. It is a real issue.
Sure.
And if you have too many of them, it can distract. The problem with saying lots and lots of ums is it sends a signal to people, hey, I'm nervous, I'm uncomfortable, I'm not quite sure of myself. It can be distracting. And in the worst case scenario, I've seen people play a game and start counting how many ums is this person going to say. So I'm not going to suggest it's not a problem from time to time. In my experience, working with tens of thousands of clients in person, most people who think they have a problem don't. I've seen people stand up, give a presentation. Everyone else in the room was like, oh my God, that was the greatest thing ever. We watched the video. And the client is like, I just want to apologize to everyone. That was the worst speech anyone has ever given. I did nothing but say the whole time. And we're all looking around like, no one even noticed the person said They said 2 ums in 10 minutes. Everybody says and occasionally. There's nothing wrong with it. It's showing someone, I'm thinking.
You're thinking.
I need a moment. Nothing wrong with it occasionally. Yes, too many of them can be like me sending you a cover letter and there's a comma after every other word. It's excessive clutter. But I have solved the problem for people. Do you want the solution? I have a device that gets rid of uhs and ums. Do you want to see it?
Uh-huh.
Again, it's very expensive, but I know your audience. I'm going to hit my camera off just for 5 seconds because I have to stand up to get it. I am wearing pants, but I'm wearing shorts. We are in Florida. So I'm just turning my camera off for 1 second.
You're fine.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to get my tick buster. Oh, you know what? I've left it. I apologize. I've left it in my briefcase at home. I'll describe it for you. So this is a technique I've used with presidents of countries, Nobel Peace Prize winners, and billionaire CEOs. It really does work if you say too many ums and ahs. What I do is I have little stickers. It has the word like, whatever the verbal tic you have. I have a sticker with the international red no sign, just like no left-hand turn, no parking. It has the international no sign on top of it. I peel off the sticker and I put it Write on something you're going to look at 150 times a day, or your watch, or the top of your computer screen, or all three. It doesn't work instantly. After a day, though, when you say you're suddenly more aware of it. You have this sort of the Homer Simpson moment where you're aware of saying and After 2 or 3 days, as your mouth and lips and tongue start to form the sound, the image comes up. It still comes out, but you almost catch it. But after a week, if you've been looking at these stickers constantly by putting it in front of you, the image comes up. Now you simply pause.
Wow.
And you don't fill the sound with clutter. So it's extraordinarily effective. I can tell you with the vast majority of my clients, they're only doing it the first time because they're nervous. Once they've practiced and they're comfortable with the material and they're talking, the ums naturally fade away. Every once in a while, there can be someone who just really has a huge problem. You mentioned you're from New York. You may remember Ed Koch couldn't get through a sentence without 25 ums coming out. Didn't seem to hurt his career.
I loved him. He was my favorite mayor. I'm sorry.
Did not hurt his career.
People may disagree with me.
Plenty of people in the world who never say and nobody remembers anything they said. There are other people who say uhs and ums all the time. Geraldo Rivera, Martha Stewart, Bill O'Reilly. I mean, you can look at a lot of wildly successful full-time communicators. Uhs and ums are coming out of their mouth constantly. What do they all have in common? They make tens of millions of dollars a year talking. So people tend to obsess over things that are quite often not important. They should focus more on, do I have something interesting to share with this audience? And can I really make it interesting and compelling for them? If you do that, most of the time the uhs and ums disappear. But if not, you can try this technique at home. Just type it up, print it out, get a red magic marker and mark it, cut it out, put a piece of tape, and it works fine.
Interesting. I'm gonna get some stickers.
By the way, I don't think you have a problem with saying too many ums. I have a pretty good ear for it. People pay me a lot of money to detect their ums.
Well, because I'm
not saying you didn't say any.
Well, yeah,
but it has not been distracting to me. I haven't noticed it. It didn't meet that threshold of, there's too many ums here. And most people don't reach that threshold. If it's just put in occasionally, it's just a comma. It's a pause.
Interesting. So I can't believe we're almost at an hour. Actually, I can. What advice do you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? Because you've worked with like a million different types of people. And, this podcast is geared toward, although I just want to preface this by everything that you have said today has been so valuable. So I want to thank you. There we go. I want to thank you for, being here and sharing that with my audience, because a lot of people listening do want to be public speakers. They do, maybe want to do an online course. Who knows, right? So I know for a fact that somebody out there has heard you today and they have gained. So I personally have gained so much value from this. Like, I just want to talk to you forever. I know that's not possible.
I'm having fun. Let's keep going.
But what advice do you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, especially in today's environment?
Well, it really comes down to two things. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution, which is the name of a book I didn't write. It's on my shelf back here. Fall in love with a problem, really solving people's problems, and then just try a million solutions. The other thing is you've got to figure out how to use the best tool available today to solve that problem. And the best tool for so many things is artificial intelligence. I spend most of my waking time experimenting with and thinking about how to use artificial intelligence better. Can I just show you briefly what I'm talking about? Because I've created an AI clone of myself so that if you wanted to talk to me all night long, or any of your audience wanted to rehearse a speech or a podcast, they could do so. So if you don't mind, I will just share very brief, and this is free for people to use. They don't even have to give a name or an email address if they want to try this out. So it's at TJ Walker AI. You just go to TJ Walker AI, and they can call my clone. My clone can give feedback on your set, on your message, what you should say to the media. And it's available in video and audio and text. It has my entire brain, and everything I've ever said in any course is in the database of this. Hi, TJ. My name is Iris, and I am going on CNBC this week to talk about my podcast and how it's really useful to people aspiring to be an entrepreneur. What tips do you have for me, first of all, on my set, my lighting, and also what tips do you have for me on my message as I go on my podcast, or I go on CNBC to talk about my podcast?
He froze.
Wow, so that hasn't happened before. TJ, are we? Okay, he's back. Okay, TJ, did you hear the question? Okay, TJ. So something got messed up there. We'll try that again. TJ, my name is Iris. I'm going on CNBC to talk about my podcast. Do you have any feedback for me on my set and my messages? So that's one of the big lessons of technology. It doesn't always work.
When it works, it's great.
This has been working fabulously for the last 6 months, but it didn't work right now. So every so often, there is some kind of a glitch. For anyone who wants to rehearse a speech.
How did you create? Okay, that's amazing.
So again, I'm not a technologist. So I used a platform called Delphi.ai. It's like the Oracle of Delphi, Delphi.ai. They have a platform. Normally it works really well, where it answers a question just like I would. I mean, it would tell you, hey, I like your pictures in the back, Iris, and your lighting is good on your face, and it would give you suggestions on messages. It would mention you by name. So it's not just giving some pre-record. It's not like an old jukebox where it's hitting B3 and C2. It's speaking just as I would in my voice, and it's pulling from every book I've ever written, every online course. All of it has been ingested into a digital brain. And it can talk to you in an audio format, in a video format, and a text format, other than today for some reason. But that's a part of the risk of doing things live. But no risk, no reward.
No reward. Wow. Well, first off, thank you so much for taking time out of what I'm sure is an incredibly busy day to share all of your valuable insights with and expertise with myself and my audience.
Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. How do people, reach you? Where can they find you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to tjwalker.ai, and they can start talking to my clone right away. And it actually is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's also available in more than 30 languages. So it's my voice, but if you want to speak to it in Hindi, it will speak to you in Hindi, even though I don't understand Hindi. So that's the best way they can get advice right there. They can also reach me on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find, and tjwalker.com is another place where they can reach me as well.
Wow. Well, again, thank you so much. And the last question that I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
Well, what really excites me is what I'm doing right now with this clone, because Here's been my frustration. My whole career, I really, really helped people one-on-one. And as I got more experience and credentials, I could charge more and was working with CEOs and billionaires. That's great, but it's not scalable. It's very expensive. I have to fly all the way to them. They fly to me. There's only so many people you can help. And then the next part of my career was really dominated by online video-based courses, which is great in that it's scalable. You can have, 1 million people using you all over the world at the very same time, and I can be asleep. The problem with that is you lose the one-on-one interactivity, the
Right.
one-on-one conversational style. So what's so exciting to me is this digital clone, because it can really be the best of both worlds. It can have that one-on-one style interaction where my clone is giving you personalized critiques, and yet it's totally scalable because I don't have to fly to you. You don't have to fly to me. It's so much less expensive. I can help people all over the world become better communicators. But it's very early in the game. I guess, as I mentioned to you, it took me 15 years in the online training world before it really started paying off. I don't know if it's going to take 15 years for AI clones to take off, but
Probably
there's
not.
still glitches, as you just saw.
Yeah.
And even when it does work well, a lot of people aren't quite sure what to make of it. And people are scared by new technology. People forget the first time someone saw a movie, people jumped out of their chairs, running out of the room because they thought the train was coming to run them over. The first time people ever heard music coming out of a phonograph, they ran out of the room screaming. They thought it was evil spirits possessing the room. So anytime you have technology representing some kind of human form, face, voice, it scares people. So it is taking a little while for this to take off, but that's what excites me the most.
Wow. Okay, hang on one second. I'm going to say goodbye to my audience, and I will be right back. Everybody, holy crap. I mean, what an amazing episode. Thank you all for tuning in and hanging in for an hour plus. I cannot imagine that you haven't gained any kind of insight from TJ today. I think I have gained so much valuable insight and so many tools that I am going to be using moving forward. Again, thank you for hanging out an hour plus. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, review, give us a review. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Let us know a nugget that you've gleaned from this episode. And until we see each other next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.